Heading into Star Wars Celebration, there were rumors of some big announcements coming, but I'm not sure any of us were truly prepared for what hit first thing Friday morning. Since then, there have been even more details and revelations. In this episode, we'll talk all about the films, trailers, and scoops from Star Wars Celebration Europe. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was
my buddy Tristan up in Seattle, and he's like, he desperately wants to go to Celebrations. I'm like, well, maybe we can plan a joint trip together. I'm like, you'd be in with the guys who are practically experts at this sort of thing. You know all the inside tips and tricks.
Been to 3, kind of missing out on this one, but at the same time, kind of it's Easter weekend and Europe. Those two things combined made it
a little tough.
So hopefully we'll find out by the time this is out. We'll already know, but
where the next one is.
We hopefully find out where the next one is, and it's probably going to be 2025. Huntsville. I think Orlando.
I hope Orlando
2025. That's my guess.
And if we get the hotel we had last time, we now know there's a 5-minute walk instead of a 25-minute walk to the convention center.
Well, welcome to Tatooine Sons. Thank you so much for listening in. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation, that there is a story it is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we talk about all of the amazing mythologies associated with Star Wars. And there's no sense in me getting into all the details because that's all we're talking about. This episode. There's a lot of Star Wars news to talk about.
Yes, there is.
All right, so coming into this, obviously we weren't going to be at Star Wars Celebration. What was your vibe this week coming into, and we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, so for all of you listening on Tuesday morning and beyond, just kind of get some context for that. What was your vibe coming into this year for Star Wars Celebration? I'll start with you, Sam.
Honestly, when we made the decision that we weren't going, when I knew that was a certainty, I kind of tuned out from Celebration. I knew the news would pop up on my feed, but I wasn't going to be focused on it. And that was partially just because, there's no point, but also partially it's like, I'm jealous and I don't want to see everybody's posts about it. So I kind of, was going into it just like, okay, whatever, I resigned to it and whatever happens. But, after seeing the news and I've been scrolling Facebook and seeing people's costumes and them just taking pictures with the cast and all these autograph sessions and photo sessions. It's kind of fun. It does make me miss it, for sure, but I don't feel like, there's no negative feelings towards it.
Yeah, I think the best picture I saw was the one we saw this afternoon with James Arnold Taylor taking a photo with Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
The best part about that was he's like, it's been 21 years I've been trying to get a photo with him and talk to Ewan McGregor. And he's like, it happened so fast. It was 2 or 3 seconds. And he's like, I play you on all the Clone Wars. I'm your voice. And it's really nice to meet you. And he was basically done with that, which I love. There's 2 things I love about that. The first one is James Arnold Taylor's experience is the exact experience that all of us get every time we get one of those photo ops, which I thought was really kind of fun and interesting because we would have that same mindset meeting James Arnold Taylor.
Right.
It'd be like, oh my gosh, that's James Arnold Taylor. And they would rush us through. And so he's been on the other side of that, I'm sure, with that stuff. The other thing I love about that is he's just not entitled. James Arnold Taylor did not come across as entitled. Like, I should have been able to meet him on my own, meet him backstage. And he probably could have pulled some strings and somebody would have made that happen. And instead he did it like a fan. I love that.
Yeah,
what was your thoughts coming in, BB Nate?
I was just excited for the event. I mean, I wasn't insanely disappointed. I mean, of course I wanted to go, but I was also happy for all the people that were able to go that aren't able to usually, because we understand international travel is difficult. So people in Europe were finally able to go to their first celebration, which is awesome. There was a lot of first timers this year. And so it was cool to see that. And, you know, it's been cool to see the cosplays and the interactions that fans have had and the merchandise that they're selling and all this stuff. And the announcements have been really good, but it's just been a fun year for Star Wars fans.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, kind of going back to what I was saying. You know, I've said multiple times, but the big thing about Celebration for me, the part that I enjoy the most is the atmosphere and the experience and the show floor mainly. I mean, panels are awesome. I love the panels. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, there's an extent you can watch some of them online. You know, what you can't get online is the feeling of waiting in line. I know that's weird, but waiting in line with everybody, walking around the show floor, seeing all the booths, you're walking around and then there's a Boba Fett cosplay just walking around. You know, you can't get that at home. And that's like, 70% of the experience.
Yeah, the community piece of it.
Absolutely.
You know, but going back to what you were talking about, how it's great for the people in Europe that get the opportunity to do this. I remember in 2019 how excited Neil Lowry was to come to Chicago.
Yeah,
I got to hang out with him a little bit and stuff like that. And then I saw a picture this afternoon of him getting a photo with Rosaria Dawson.
That was so cool.
So that's the kind of stuff that I'm excited about for this. So let's jump in there. So we're gonna start with the movies. That was the big announcement on Friday morning. I woke up, did my stuff, decided it's time to engage. I don't engage in social media when I first wake up. It's usually 2 hours or so in my day before I'm actually opening up Twitter, and I've got to get my head right before I do that. Anyway, so I pop open Twitter and I see it. There it is. Announcements of 3 new movies. The first one is going to be Daisy Ridley is back for a new Jedi Order. This one's going to be set 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker.
Significant time jump.
And she's going to be rebuilding the Jedi Order along with the conflict and things that are coming along with that. BB Nate, what are your thoughts on continuing the story of Rey post Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, 15 years later? What are your thoughts on that as far as story itself?
I'm excited to see where they go with it. I thought that Rise of Skywalker was pretty much a good stopping point for this franchise, but I think that continuing this story, not sure if it's going to be Episode 10 or if it's just going to be the Rey story or however they handle that. I'm not sure how they're going to handle an antagonist at this point, because they kind of eradicated Sidious, which was the big deal with the Sith, and kind of destroyed most of Exegol. So there's not really a Sith right now. I don't know if it's going to be personal conflict with the potential dark side within Rey,
that'd be an
not allowing her to build a new Jedi Order, or how they're going to handle it. Maybe Finn's a bad guy. That would be an interesting concept too. But
that'd be a twist.
It would be a twist. But I'm excited to see where they go with it. Cautiously optimistic is the best word to say about it. Yeah.
What about you, Sam? What do you think about Daisy Ridley coming back and being able to be a part of that? Is that a surprise to you?
It is a surprise, but it's also kind of not at the same time. I mean, there was a lot of everybody knows in Star Wars there was a lot of stupid negative comments that came out from the sequel trilogy, and unfortunately most of them, or a lot of them, were directed straight at the actors and actresses, which is just not the way you should handle something. And so Daisy Ridley got a lot of hate after the sequel movies, and so she had gone on record stating that she was done with Star Wars. But then again, when Lucasfilm comes knocking at your door with a probably pretty significant offer in paychecks, you don't want to turn that down necessarily. But, it's been encouraging to see some of the fan reactions kind of turning around. I mean, Ahmed Best just made his reappearance in Mando, and even online, everything was overwhelmingly positive.
Correct.
For him. Yeah. So there's obviously still hope, for anything. So I'm excited to see Daisy Ridley back. I liked the character of Rey. I liked Daisy Ridley.
Cool lightsaber too.
Yeah, I mean,
yellow lightsaber. You're a fan of that.
So I'm excited to see it. I get your point, Nate, about this is a weird timeline. Isn't 15 years almost the same gap of time between 3 and 4? It's 18.
It's
right?
19 years.
19 years in
19
that.
years,
So this is almost the same time jump. So there's a lot that can happen.
Let's just hope she ages better than Obi-Wan Kenobi did.
Right.
I'm not with that.
Yeah, but you got to think. What was that one Vision short that
The
took
Ninth
place
Jedi. Yeah, I
after
get
episode
that.
9? I mean, they can do it. They can figure out a way to make it work. It's just, is it going to be a, how do I put this without sounding toxic? Jumping the shark, maybe, is a good way to put it. Just kind of shoehorning in a bad guy to have a bad guy in a story.
Well, if we've learned anything about Star Wars is when you think there's no more Jedi, there are a lot more Jedi.
Right.
So when you think there are no more Sith, there may be more Sith. They may be dark Force users. They may be not a part of the official Sith order, but the Force is the Force. There is a light side and the dark side of the Force, and you can still have that impact.
Like, when do we stop? When do we end this continuous battle? I mean, we've had 9 movies already set in this version, and we're going back for at least one more right now. Probably
I'm not sure
a
we're
trilogy.
saying that this is a part of the Skywalker saga.
I'm not
it's
saying
a separate
that. I'm
storyline.
saying, the light side versus the dark side set in a point in time. This is now 15 years after. When do we kind of say enough is enough of this storyline and kind of
When does good
move
truly
on? Right.
triumph? Yeah.
Does it ever? And then do we just deal with that?
But at this point, if you look at it from our faith perspective that we have, good and evil exist, and it's going to continue to exist in our world until the return of the king, right? And that's not, Aragon. That's Jesus. Yeah. So, I mean, until the king comes back and returns and sets things right, you have good versus evil, and it's going to be the same thing in the Star Wars.
I mean,
universe.
that's kind of part of the reason, though, why I love Lord of the Rings so much, and I love the Return of the King, which we're seeing this week.
Yeah, you guys are. Yeah, that's
Thursday.
Right.
Is it not this week?
No, it is.
Okay.
Just stop rubbing it in Dad's face. You can't see it.
I was going to go, and then I have a work trip. So.
But the thing is at the end of that movie, there's really no doubt. Or, I mean, maybe hindsight's 2020 because they haven't, made any stories, and Tolkien didn't write anything after Lord of the Rings. But it really does truly feel like evil is vanquished at the end. Like, they're done. Sauron's gone. He was the last bad guy. All of his forces are gone. Good has triumphed, and now they can go into the next age or whatever, and peace has been won. With Star Wars, it kind of feels like they keep doing the cycle over and over again. So I get your point. I do hope they find a way to make it really feel like the good guys have won for more than 2 decades.
Well, we've got 12 minutes into this episode, and we've talked about one topic from Star Wars Celebration, so we should move forward. Sam, James Mangold, Dawn of the Jedi. So this one goes back 25,000 years before A New Hope to the first Jedi, to the establishment. They're like, this is supposed to answer what the Force is, where the Force comes from. Now, James Mangold was originally... James Mangold was originally scheduled to slated to write and direct the book of, or not the Book of Boba Fett, the Boba Fett film that was then shelved. And now I don't know if it's become the Book of Boba Fett. I think the Book of Boba Fett is very different from what he had in mind, but he's coming back now. James Mangold did Logan. He did
Ford v
Ferrari. He's doing the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
He's also doing Swamp Thing now.
He's doing the Swamp Thing
So
for the DC
director.
universe with it. What are your thoughts on going back to 25,000 years before anything that we've ever had in the story?
I love it. I really like it. I mean, that's opens up so many potential story, like I don't know if avenues are the right way, but like even the world building can be different. It can feel like Star Wars, but like completely different at the same time. I mean, for lack of a better term, this could be in a way like Lord of the Rings in Star Wars. I mean,
I
highly doubt there's super advanced technology 25,000 years ago. I imagine there's still like rudimentary spaceships and stuff.
It's gonna be like what Earth is now.
Right, yeah, it's just Earth. It's just Earth. But the whole bringing up of the Jedi, the first Jedi, the origins of the Force, I mean, it's going to be such a mythology heavy story.
Yeah,
and that
I
is,
agree.
I mean, that's why we liked The Last Jedi so much, is there was so much of that mythology.
Well, you even
and
have
what
the
Right.
Prime Jedi mural on the floor of
Right.
the Octu Temple. The Octu Temple is the first Jedi temple,
Right.
with this, so we could be going actually even to Octu.
Yeah.
Well, see,
and
Turvis.
maybe we have
Turvis'
Turvis.
dad.
Yeah, maybe
Turvis is
Turvis's
like-
ancestor 25,000 years ago.
great granddad.
With that, what do you think, Nate, about the idea of if we go back 25,000 years before anything else in the stories, and we are focused in on the origin of the Jedi and the Force as like what it is and all of this, what are the chances we get Mortis in live action?
I very well think that that's possible. It fits into the vibe of this movie, what we're trying to go for with this. Mortis is a very important part when we're talking about Force and its beginnings and origins. And it's not something all Star Wars fans know about, but with this movie, it could be something that all Star Wars fans want to learn more about if we do have it in there.
Yeah, I mean, you can introduce it as these icons, personifications of the Force, and with it being set in this timeline, in this setting, nobody's going to bat an eye about it. They're like, that's fine. But for us hardcore fans, we're going to know exactly what that is, and it's going to blow our
fan
minds.
service would everybody would lose their minds. You think if they are in this movie, do they show them in the trailer to build up hype and give them a very large role, not just a cameo, but give them a role in how to create?
It depends
Force
on
and
the story
Jedi.
they're going for, really.
Well,
I mean,
we'll
there's this is so far out with such little details.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
If-
Because
if-
Kathleen
yeah.
Kennedy in some interviews said that James Mangold's story is well developed at this point.
Yeah, so-
and
Really?
they've been planning this for some time with that.
Okay.
But the most developed of all the stories, pretty clearly
segue.
seems to be. Thank you. It's almost like I've been doing this for a few years. Is Dave Filoni. It was announced.
Yeah.
Mr. Filoni will be writing and directing a live action feature Star Wars film. It's designed to tie up the Mandoverse.
The
And he has
Endgame.
pushed. Well, he's pushed back on that analogy of calling it the end game of the Mandoverse.
That's what it is,
He
though.
doesn't want it to be viewed at that. But the idea is this is sort of the final piece of all of the different stories with that. So we're dealing with obviously the Mandalorian storylines, the Book of Boba Fett storylines, the Ahsoka storylines, which we'll talk about in a little while, with that skeleton crew as well on that. BB Nate, what are your thoughts on Mr. Filoni getting the opportunity finally to direct a live action feature film?
It's a huge deal, and I'm sure it's kind of intimidating for him because, I mean, this is a movie. It's not just a TV episode. It's not an animated series. I mean, you're directing a live action movie. That's a difficult place to be in, but I think he's going to do fantastic. I can't wait to see what he does to tie up this storyline. I'm almost 100% sure the main villain's going to be Thrawn at this point because Dave Filoni loves Thrawn, and that's fine with me. So having him be the main bad guy and having these people all team up kind of together to be able to defeat what could be the early rise up again of the Empire, which we know that they kind of come back in the form of the First Order, but not to the extent that I'm sure they would have if Thrawn was successful. It's awesome. And it does answer the question that I had years ago, and I've had for a while, of why do we need The Mandalorian? Why do we need these shows? Now we would know, because it would be, we see the people taking down Thrawn, which was going to be the rise of the Empire again. And so that answers that question. It becomes very influential into the universe of Star Wars and why it's important for this story, which would be a huge deal.
Sam, Thrawn was originally introduced in the early 90s.
Yeah.
With Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire,
right?
Which is set post Republic, several years post, post original trilogy, several years into the New Republic, with Thrawn coming back with a fleet to try to resurrect the Empire,
right?
With that, which is exactly what we're getting in Ahsoka. Do you feel like this entire Mandoverse and Ahsoka stuff has been leading towards sort of a heir to the Empire thing, and is that what we're going with Dave Filoni's film?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Lucasfilm Story Group said a while ago that they had a large story planned out for all of these series years ago when this was all getting started. And I think that this is what it is. You know, it's a dual purpose story, right? This Mando thing, right? You've got the cloning, which is part of the rise of the Empire again, right? It brings back the Emperor, but then you're bringing in this Thrawn character, which is more of the immediate threat and the immediate rise of the Empire that they have to stave off. But there's that secondary kind of lingering threat of the cloning, and so this answers a question which is where did the Emperor come from, but also allows us to have this grand story that we get to all experience in a long format, right? I know Filoni doesn't want to call it the end game of the Mandoverse, but that's really what this is. If you consider it, it is a end all be all tie-in movie of all of these different stories, and I'm super excited for it. I love that concept. I think Thrawn is a perfect villain for it.
Yeah, I love what I heard Dave Filoni say in an interview about how Thrawn is so different. That's the reason that Thrawn is such a fascinating villain, is because he's not trying to be Darth Vader. He doesn't have the Force. In fact, in the expanded universe, the Legends universe, he has creatures that suppress the Force around him. Right. So he's not. So the Force is not a part of the equation. With it, it makes it a very different villain. Yeah. With that, let me ask you guys: of all these 3 films that were announced, I'll start with you, Nate. Which one are you the most excited about?
I think we.
No, I'm curious. I don't know.
It's the Dave Filoni film. Okay. I mean, because that's going to be. It's of course going to have to do with Rebels and characters like that. And I gave this idea to Dad, but I would love a final act battle between Ezra and Thrawn, finally wrapping up that story to defeat him, because that's been a huge conflict for years, and that would be an amazing way to end.
And we don't know what's gone on with Ezra.
We don't know if he's been a prisoner of war for Thrawn this entire time, or what's going on.
I wonder if I'm doing like my crazy speculations now are going down this path. I wonder when they get sent to wherever they get sent at the end of Rebels, in that process, Thrawn finds the Yasilamari, the creatures that I can't pronounce them, the creatures in the heir to the Empire that suppress the Force, and has been using that to suppress Ezra's powers to hold him under control during that time. That would be pretty cool. Which one are you most excited about?
Dave's movie for sure, but I had a kind of horrible thought.
You suck.
So
Ezra doesn't die.
No. What if
he's not sick?
So, okay, Filoni introduced Ahsoka in a movie. What if her story comes to a close in this movie?
I think it has to.
Oh, yeah, it has to, because we know she's dead in Rise of Skywalker.
She's one of the Force Ghost voices.
That's going to suck.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt. It's like poetry, though. It rhymes. Full circle here.
I'm excited. It's Filoni for me. I'm excited about all 3 of these films for different reasons,
for sure.
But the Filoni film is the one I'm most excited about, just because we've been waiting for years now for Filoni to get this opportunity.
Yes.
And, I'm excited to see what he does with it. And I think he's got a pretty compelling story in place. I think that Jon Favreau has been working with him to help develop this story, to set things up. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Kathleen Kennedy was given several interviews at Celebration, where she did talk about some of the other types of things that are going on, the other films. She mentions that Rogue Squadron is still a possibility. She mentioned Lando, the series, is still in the works. They're just working that out. One of the things that she talked about was how, the directors they're trying to line up for these films are some of the best directors in the world. They're some of the best writers in the world. And so it's not so much these things are getting shelved. It's that the best writers and directors in the world tend to be very busy people because they're in high demand, and that's going on. Which even in another interview, she talked about the Rian Johnson trilogy is still, in the works. They're still wanting that to be done and all that. What do you thought? What are your thoughts? I know I sent you guys some links and some stuff about Kathleen Kennedy and what she said. What did you guys have to say about how her reactions were to those questions?
Tristan and I were kind of talking about this a little bit, and it feels like Star Wars is really being careful to promote quality over quantity. One of the things that we have said a lot lately,
superhero fatigue,
is Marvel is getting a little oversaturated. We think they're releasing too much too quickly. It's losing the hype, and the quality is suffering at times. it feels like Star Wars is being very intentional about not doing that. I mean, we haven't gotten a movie.
Well, they experienced it.
Right.
They did.
We haven't gotten a movie in a long time, and that was on purpose. They've been very careful to release the shows
too close together.
Right. You know,
I mean, Bad Batch and Mando did,
but that's animated and live action. It's a little different, right? They have been very careful. The quality hasn't suffered on anything so far. Star Wars, Lucasfilm is ready to get back into the movie scene because they believe, and this is my speculation, they believe they have quality content again that they can release and bring the hype again. You said that Kathleen Kennedy wants to eventize Star Wars again. I wholeheartedly agree.
Right.
So them doing it this way, I think, is the best way to achieve that.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of getting to the point, and we did somebody said that they made a mistake with Solo and all that stuff, and I thought it was Bob Iger, but I don't care what Bob Iger says. Kathleen Kennedy was never really against Solo and hasn't.
She was
been.
against the release date.
She was against the release date.
Yeah.
And so she, of course, is still wanting to move forward with Lando, and so she's excited about what we're doing with Star Wars right now. She's not leaving like everybody's saying she is every other month.
Right.
She's staying. She knows what she's doing. She's listening to the creators that she's hired, which is something that's, I feel like, is starting to lose in Marvel. I feel like Kevin Feige is just like, I'm going to plan everything out, and then I'm going to hire directors and tell them what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well, Dave, what do you want to do with this new Mandalorian universe? Favreau, what do you want to do? So she's getting to the point where it's more of a collaborative experience rather than just, I'm going to be your boss. It's more of a creative environment. So I think she's excited about where we're at for Star Wars.
I also think that as much as she's listening to what these directors want to do, these storytellers want to do, I think that she's recruiting and hiring storytellers that are willing to listen to what the others are doing and what the story group thinks needs to happen in order to make these stories all work together. I think that there's genius in this film release idea because you're dealing with something that's set 25,000 years ago, very legends driven kind of content, right, that's out there. So they can James Mangold's film and that whole era that they start developing films in can start bringing in ideas from legends in the expanded universe that will help drive fans from that era into the space again, into watching these films and these stories again. On the very other end of that, right, you've got Rey's movie with 15 years, Dawn of the Jedi. Dawn of the Jedi has some legends feel to it, but at the same time, this is about the sequel trilogy fans, those fans that were introduced to Star Wars because of the sequel trilogy, right, and they're going to continue to experience the positive releases of these films and be a part of the fandom that way. And then the Mandoverse stuff that Dave is doing and the rest of them are doing is what's the people that are most engaged right now in Star Wars fandom are going to be getting immediate payoff for what they want. So it brings everybody in and allows them to all have their own thing. So, all right, well, we're about 30 minutes into this and we've talked films. There's a few other things to talk about. They did give us a little bit of information about the Acolyte. Basically, the most important thing is a description of they showed a trailer.
Not for us.
We didn't get to see it. We aren't watching those grainy, nasty trailers that people record with their phones when they break the rules and do that. That's just not what we do.
Not cool.
With it. So we haven't seen the trailer, but the most important piece of information that I have gathered from that is when Leslie Headland describes it as Frozen meets Kill Bill. BB Nate, what the heck does that mean?
That's two very different movies.
Just a little bit.
If you have Tarantino and Disney, those don't mix. But it's really just going to be, I feel like, somebody figuring out their power and learning about that through that. I don't think we're talking about tone as much with these movies as much as story.
Maybe it's like those scenes in Mary Poppins where you have live action creatures and animation.
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
Hope not.
No. Okay. But somebody finding out their power and learning how to use it and being terrified of what they could do with it and then wondering if their dark side, which kind of fits into the vibe of what we've learned about this show, and Kill Bill with maybe just some really awesome action sequences and a lot of very fun character moments that we have in it. Personally, haven't seen Kill Bill. Not really on my agenda right now. We have so many other ones but yeah, that's really what I feel like it would be.
Yeah, it's a very weird way to describe a movie for sure. But
a show.
But when you give it that specific of an description and such an odd one, it's probably going to work really well in my opinion. You know, like that's such an out there combination that it'll be different. It'll be unique. So I'm curious to see what that's about. I can't say much just because, again, I haven't seen Kill Bill, but I think Nathan hit it on the nose. It's going to have that deep story that you get from Frozen, but the fun action stuff. Deep is relative, but you know what I mean.
Maybe the first time that's ever been said.
It's got substance to it, at least, right? More than Kill Bill, but it's going to have the fun parts of Kill Bill.
So I'm just hoping that there's a musical and a talking snowman. So that's all I'm going for. Okay, let's go to Skeleton Crew. Again, they showed a lot of stuff about Skeleton Crew that we didn't get, and which is fine. Most important things that I saw. The first one is we've kind of been hearing that this was more like a Stranger Things in Star Wars. That's what they said last year when they introduced this first time, or that's what we had heard. What Kathleen Kennedy and what the leadership and the people that are involved in producing this show said is it's more like those classic 80s Amblin movies that are out there, like Goonies and E.T. and that kind of thing. So you've got the young kids, but it's big, it's epic, that kind of thing. What are your thoughts on Goonies and E.T. in Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, what would fit better in Star Wars? I mean, those are products of the 80s, just like Star Wars is, right?
And Spielberg.
And Spielberg, right. So
and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if there's any better combination for Star Wars, then, you know, that's it. So I'm very excited to see where they go with that. You know, I love Stranger Things, but every time that was thrown around, it felt a little off for Star Wars. As soon as I heard it's Goonies or E.T. in Star Wars, I'm like, oh, that fits. I can see exactly how that would work in Star Wars now. So very excited for that.
You know, one of the things that is Stranger Things-esque that they described in this panel when they talked about Skeleton Crew was that there's going to be two parallel storylines going on. And in Stranger Things, you've got, you know, everything happening with the kids, and then you've got, you know, the mom and David Harbour's character, and I can't remember any of the characters' names right now. The adults, Hopper, the adults, and things like that are trying to, especially in the later seasons, trying to kind of track down, find the kids, you know, everything that's going on
like
that.
3 or 4 storylines going on in that.
Right. So what I understand is that you're going to have the kids that are on this adventure that they've been kind of thrust into unexpectedly, and they go missing, and then you all also have a storyline where the parents of those kids are searching for them. Why do you think it's important to have both of those storylines at once in this?
To satiate the parents watching, wondering why are these parents not concerned, you'll get that, but you'll also see the building of the relationship between the parents and the kids that will make you feel for the kids and understand them better, because you can't have a ton of character development with a bunch of kids. That just doesn't happen all that well. That's not how they act. So being able to see how the parents and their love for their children will help us understand the kids better. And of course, we're going to be getting Jude Law with the kids.
He's a good looking man.
Yeah. So we'll see him dealing with the kids and leading them to the point where I'm sure the parents will find them. And so who knows if they don't? That would be dark.
Well, of all the series that are out there right now, that one is one that keeps getting more and more exciting for me. Okay, this morning, they released the Jedi Survivor trailer. I watched it. Looks awesome.
Don't know anything about it.
Don't have a clue, so you guys go.
I mean, story-wise, no clue what's going on. And I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine. The first game had a great story. It was a ton of fun. So I have no doubts that the story in this game is going to be great as well. But the gameplay looks like a ton of fun. I think they've made some great changes with it. Dad's going to have no clue what we're talking about here. But, you know, Nate and I have heard it described as having different stances, right? With the different lightsaber configurations. You can have single blade, 2 lightsabers, double blade, or cross guard, right? And each one's a different stance, kind of like Ghost of Tsushima. Love that concept. It's going to be a ton of fun. But, you know, all the teases they've been doing with the story, all these, like the dude in the back to tank and all this stuff, it looks like it's going to be really good. I'm excited for it. Do we know how long? They said 5 years after
I think so.
Fallen Order? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very exciting. We don't know anything about the story, really, which we didn't really know anything about the story for Fallen Order from the trailers. We kind of got that during the game, which is not unusual for games because you don't need to get people drawn into the story. You need to get them drawn into the characters and the gameplay because that's what you're going there for more than anything. And so we're going to be getting that. It seems like the new combat's going to be fun. Much larger worlds is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot longer this time, which is not a bad thing. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for it.
We're going to Coruscant.
Maybe.
I just see that.
Maybe. Well, I don't know if we're going to be traversing Coruscant, but at least a cutscene.
Is it next gen exclusive, next gen capable? Do we know anything
It's
about
next
that?
gen capable. I don't know if it's exclusive or not.
So it will be like optimized for PS5.
It is
though.
made for PS5.
Okay,
though,
that's
so.
exciting. That'll be
It's a
really
big deal
big.
for this game. It's
Yeah.
going to be difficult because the first game had some developmental issues. It's not refined. There's a lot of cuts in the cutscenes, a lot of glitches, a lot of bugs. Even years after, the graphics are fine, but they're a little bit unpolished.
It looks like a beautiful game in the trailer.
This new one looks very good.
And honestly, that's the most the soonest Star Wars thing that we're going to get, other
that's
than
in like
finishing
a couple
up
weeks.
Yes.
Mandalorian. With that, all right, 34 and a half minutes plus into recording, and we're getting to the thing that is the most important to us, and that was we got the new Ahsoka trailer and a lot more details of it. So basically, this trailer confirms that Ahsoka is Rebels season 5
In live action.
Give me your feedback and your reactions to the trailer and everything that we've learned about the story at this point, BB Nate.
It's very exciting. It's what I expected. I didn't expect anything less but Rebels season 5. Very excited to see what they do with this story and the characters and how they kind of tie into this Mandoverse. I think that Ahsoka is going to be a lot of fun now. We haven't really seen her have her own adventures all that much, especially at the point where she's kind of walked away from the Jedi Order fully and gotten to this point. It's going to be nice to see Sabine and Hera, maybe some Jason. I'd love to see some more Jason. Maybe some Zeb as well. He could tie into this now that we saw him last week in Mando. It's just super exciting. We're getting Thrawn. We're getting Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn, which
That's
is
yeah.
and I'm pumped. Chopper's in it, of course. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So what do you think, Sam?
You know, when I was watching the trailer, I'm thinking this doesn't feel like a trailer for a TV show. It feels like a trailer for like a feature film almost, which is a great thing. But it really is Rebels season 5, and I'm all here for it. It looks awesome. The bad guys are
they're interesting.
I'm curious to see their story because they're not Inquisitors.
Yeah,
but
Mr. Filoni confirmed today in an interview that those are orange lightsabers,
which is awesome.
Which is going to add to an element of what the heck is this?
Right, because they're not Inquisitors. They're not Sith, I guess. So who are they, right?
Which kind of ties into what Nathan's concern with the Rey film is.
Yeah.
Maybe they're part of
Just
some
like a
other
setup
kind of group.
sort of thing. But it looks absolutely incredible, and it cannot come out soon enough.
There's a scene that Ahsoka is taking on the main baddie, and I cannot remember his name right now.
Dude with the beard?
Yeah, the dude with the beard, the main baddie. With that, and it looks like they could potentially be in a room that has like World Between Worlds, sort of like engravings and things
Or
like
could
that.
be in the World Between Worlds.
I don't know, because I watched those episodes again, and the World Between Worlds is very distinctive
is
in
true.
that you know when you're in the world.
It looks
Between
like
Worlds.
the training center in Fallen Order. To
Really?
be honest, when
Yeah,
you're
it kinda
fighting
does.
master, your master. It reminded me a lot of that. Maybe somehow it's like a mind battle place between them. I don't know, but it reminded me of later on in the game of Fallen Order where you fight your master. So maybe it's that. Who knows?
The release date was announced. It's August of this year, so that's coming very, very quickly. That is BB Nate's birthday
Happy birthday,
month,
Nate.
with it. Somebody did some math. You know, fans will come up with crazy theories just based on dates and calendar and things like that.
Because we're crazy.
But basically, that there's the MCU Secret Invasion. Right,
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. It ends like the last week of July.
Okay.
So if they're trying to set up to have another major event series kicking in August. It could happen very early in August, which is again your birthday on that. So we're
Day of. That'd be great.
That'd be pretty cool.
Scale of 1 to 10. How hyped are you for that?
Oh, well, come on. It's 10. We waited almost 4 years for this.
Do you think your hype could be too big?
No,
It could hurt you in this?
I don't, honestly. I'm just excited to see these characters again.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, you 10. I mean, you're getting Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn again. Like, I'm in live action. Like, you got me. I'm sold. Like,
No one else could play that character. And it's not just his voicing, it's his understanding of the character, the way he interpreted that character in Rebels. I watched, like I said, like the last 4 or 5 episodes of Rebels on Friday afternoon after all of this. And I'm telling you, I was just like, Rebels is not just great Star Wars animation. It's not even just great Star Wars. It's phenomenal storytelling. And it's a phenomenal presentation. And for the fact that we're getting these characters again, is something I cannot even begin to describe how excited I am for it. They had a couple other things. We'll just bump through this really, really quick. Sam, I'll start with you. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny trailer. What'd you think?
looks great. Looks like a ton of fun.
Better than the first trailer?
I don't know about better. It's just, it's more. And I was, it didn't sell me any more than the first trailer did. I was already like, it's Indiana Jones. You got me.
What about you, Nate? What'd you think?
I was very excited. It looks great. I do think it was better than the first
I do
trailer.
too.
More to it. It felt more like Indiana Jones than the first trailer did. And I've seen that first trailer so many times.
I know.
That might be the problem. But I think it was a very great trailer. I'm very excited. It's going to be a ton of fun. It looks a little bit better than Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
Well, let's just can't wait to see that in June, right? All right. They announced as well that we're getting a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi. What do you think about that, Nate?
Follow Ezra.
Yeah.
Ezra's tales in between the time period. That'll be fun because that's one of Dave's characters as well.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
But no, I'm super excited for this. The first season was great. A lot of fun stories that we had. Short, but it was fun. And maybe we'll get some Obi-Wan stories. That would probably be
James Arnold Taylor would be excited about that.
He would be excited about that.
What about you? What did you think of it? Are you excited about that?
Yeah, I mean, the last season was great. I wonder what 2 characters they're going to focus on this time.
What if they do Kanan?
Ooh,
That'd be
I could
perfect.
see that. Yeah, after
3
Order
periods
66.
of Kanan.
Oh,
Yeah.
like in the as a Padawan,
As a Padawan. In between Order
before he
66.
becomes he like connects with Hera, and then
after
while he's training Ezra,
Yeah.
and we get some Ezra.
I'd hurt. That would hurt.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Dave, listen to our show and then take that idea and run with it. All right. We didn't get, now they did an Obi-Wan Kenobi panel
Remembering
today with it. They did not give a season 2 announcement for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but in the panel, Ewan said he thinks they should make a season 2.
I agree.
Of course you
Do
do.
you think that's coming?
No. Honestly, I don't. It was fine how it was. It was a mini series. They called it a limited series. And if you have a limited edition of an object or something you're selling, you don't put it back on market because you want more to sell it.
Unless it's Funko.
Funko doesn't. Funko's weird.
They do limited stuff and then make a new version.
They're just throwing it all into a garbage pile right now. But I think we keep it a limited series. We keep it the 6 episodes it was. It was good. It was what we needed for Obi-Wan. I don't think we need any more.
What do you think, Nate or Sam?
I mean, yes and no. Would I love to see more? Absolutely. Do I think the story is good where it is? Also, yes. So I'm neutral. If they decide to make a new one, cool.
I will be there the day it releases. If they make one, as excited as I could possibly be, but I'm not sitting here begging them to make it. I feel like they did just fine with Obi-Wan Kenobi and that it moves forward. So
I am your father.
since we recorded this episode, new trailers were revealed for Star Wars Visions Season 2 and Young Jedi Adventures, both releasing on May the 4th. So that's exciting. We also had some big announcements, including Season 3 of The Bad Batch, which will hit Disney Plus in 2024. And of course, the location and the dates of Star Wars Celebration 2025. This will be in Tokyo from April 18th through the 20th. And while Tokyo will obviously make it hard for those of us here in the U.S. to attend, my biggest concern isn't the location so much as the dates. For the third time over 5 celebrations and the second time in a row, the decision has been made to hold the event over Easter weekend. And while I understand that this is a holiday weekend and people have dates off to travel and attend, I do find it curious that this event seems to have become firmly fixed over the weekend of the most sacred events for a worldwide religion observed by more than 2 billion people. I know we won't be able to attend because of this, and there are many others who would love to go who can't for the same reason. One of the most important elements of the Christian faith is gathering together in community to commemorate important events. Star Wars and ReedPop have chosen to force many of us to choose between gathering to celebrate Star Wars or gathering to celebrate the resurrection of our Lord and Savior. For us, the decision was made the moment the date was announced. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest, and I appreciate your understanding of that. Please continue to follow the show on your podcast app and whatever services that you utilize. Make sure that you are subscribed on the podcast app, of course, but also following us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and all of the social apps as well. And one of the big reasons is because we have a huge announcement that's coming on May the 4th. And so you're going to want to stay tuned to our social media channels, checking in on the podcast as well to get more details about how you can be ready for that big announcement that's coming on May the 4th be with you. And of course, give us a rating and a review on your podcast app that you're listening to us on. It truly does help us get the show out to people that have never heard of us. And we hope that you like it enough and you want to do that. So I think that's going to pretty much cover it for this week. Next week, looks like we're going to be talking some Mandalorian stuff, kind of a recap of the season up to date, and then a preview of what's coming the next day in the big finale. So can't wait to talk to you about that. Until then,
May the Force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.